Welcome to the First and 30 podcast. This is episode 49. Antonino, what are we about?
We are two 30-something-year-old guys giving you 4 rebellious downs in 30 scorched earth minutes of NFL football insight to get you through your hump day.
That's right. And we'll give more context into what all those adjectives mean that Antonino's so fondly referring to there in the introduction. But Antonino, before we hop into the episode, I know you're down there in sunny Florida these days, so you're missing out on all the glorious weather that we're experiencing here in Maryland. But we had our first major snowstorm in quite some time, and I have to say, man, I'm loving it. I just love the snow. It kind of creates this whole new perspective, this change in environment that can kind of change your mindset too about things. But be honest, are you missing it at all, or are you good? You fine without it?
Yesterday was 70 degrees and I was in a t-shirt and shorts. Today it's 40 degrees. I'm freezing. I have a sweatshirt on. I don't miss it at all. Enjoy the powder. I do miss a good snow angel. Everyone loves snow angels. I do miss a good snow angel. But besides that, get this cold weather out of here.
40 degrees. Look, you've gotten soft down there in Florida. You're getting conditioned like in a not so great way, where it's just like, oh man, I can't even handle the elements anymore.
100%.
But yeah, no, it's really cool to look at, man. But let's hop right into the episode, because I want to spend some time here on First Down. I know this weekend you had the highs, you had the lows specifically, but with all of that emotion, it seems as though you're sitting over there just contemplating different ideas around how the NFL could maybe look at things differently for week 18. So, why don't you start getting into it, Antonino? You were sitting there watching the games. You had a lot riding on a few of these matchups, but there was, some things that you probably weren't too happy about. So let's kick off First Down. Give it to me. What's the playoff problem? I know you were saying something about a playoff problem and a problem with week 18 specifically. Go get into it with us.
I have a bone to pick, and that's with the NFL. And I hope they're listening right now, because the Kansas City Chiefs should be investigated for what we had to sit there and watch this past weekend. Final score 38-zip. Getting their brakes blown off by a division rival Broncos to allow them in the playoffs. And Nick, I know I'm still mourning, and you know why, but this is not okay that the biggest week of the season that we're watching a putrid game like this with no stars in action for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, so let me first reiterate and try to pull from this raw emotion. Your gripe, first and foremost, the argument you're trying to make here is that you think it is an injustice to the sport of football, an injustice to the fans, that we have to sit there and watch the Chiefs' second string, third string players playing a meaningless game to them, while the Broncos have everything riding on their game. They need to win this game to get in the playoffs. Meanwhile, Kansas City, they're like, yep, we don't want to risk injury. We don't want to risk that. So that's like the spear of your argument right there, where you think it's just bad for the game. That's what you were saying to me earlier, I think.
Well, besides the Kansas City Chiefs running away scared from the Cincinnati Bengals potentially getting in the playoffs, running away scared with their tail between their legs, that's one. But 2, yes, the NFL should make it so that each and every game is meaningful. Every game should have their $60 million star player playing. Is it like that now?
Okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah. So there's 2 things that you said there that I want to pick on a little bit. So you started kind of pulling the curtain back a little and sharing the deeper side of the emotion here. For those that weren't aware, Antonino is one of the biggest Bengal fans I know, and I don't know too many Bengals fans, so it's kind of easy to pinpoint that he's the biggest fan I know of the Bengals. Well, Cincinnati needed some things to happen this weekend. First, they needed to beat the Steelers. They did it. They got the job done. But they also needed the Miami Dolphins to lose to the Jets, and they needed the Broncos to lose to the Chiefs. Well, Miami lost to the Jets, but Denver crushed KC because KC did not play any starters. So there's the first part that we have to acknowledge, that there's some emotion into this right now. You're sitting there thinking like, this just isn't fair. The Chiefs should have had their starters in. They should have beat the Broncos. They're a better team than the Broncos, and my Bengals would be in the playoffs, right? So that's the first part of it. But the second part that you state there, there's some hypocrisy I need to call you out on, man. And we don't have to look back too far. I think like a week or two ago, we were talking about Saquon Barkley, right? Mm-hmm. And the record and whether or not he should play the game. And I think if I'm correct, I said I was on the side of, well, he should play. He should chase the record. You were adamant against him going for this record because you thought they should have benched him to avoid injury.
Correct.
So why is this tune changing here this week?
No, the tune is exactly the same. For the way the NFL structured right now, yes, you should rest your player in hopes of winning a Super Bowl to have them rested. But my concern and my debate here is that the NFL should do something so that is not the case. Either it's incentivize the player to play each and every game, or they did expand the playoffs to have one additional team to 7 teams. However, that's just not working. We should not have any team, for that matter, sitting the players by choice. This is a money-making operation. They play these guys $60 million. You have fans that plan months in ahead to be at the game, to fly to the game, to see their favorite player, Patrick Mahomes, and they don't get to see that. Instead, they get 38 zip, and they go home crying to their mom and dad, why did I have to witness that?
Fair enough. Okay. I get the point from a product standpoint, right? If you're paying good money to go to Kansas City, but that's a risk that you're taking, right? You are aware probably ahead of time that you have a very competitive team that's been to a few Super Bowls. You're buying tickets to the last game of the season, which let me also state that I don't think that the ticket prices were going to be comped at the typical value. Like, right? They're going to give these tickets for a bit of a discount, knowing that a lot of the star players aren't going to be there. So you're going to discount a ticket to go to Arrowhead or wherever the game was. So that's something that you have to acknowledge too. But I want to know this, Antonino. I'm going to kind of challenge your logic here a little bit. Would you feel, and be very honest with me, would you feel the same way about all these things that you're stating if there was a little bit of role reversal happening here? And what I mean by that, let's say the Cincinnati Bengals were in the exact same position the Kansas City Chiefs were in. Sitting there, 14-1, 15-1, whatever the heck the record was, locked everything up. And you're playing, let's say, Pittsburgh, divisional rival. We'll keep it consistent there. And the Chiefs, deadly Chiefs, are in this position where they need the Bengals to win against Pittsburgh in order to make the playoffs. In your mind, would you really want to see the Chiefs in the playoffs, or would you rather your Bengals, do what the Chiefs did? Yeah. Let's give Burrow and Chase a little bit of rest, avoid injury, because we got big goals to win a Super Bowl here, and we don't want to play the Chiefs in the playoffs.
I want
to me, man.
I want to make it clear. I'm not questioning the tactic with the given system. Yes, resting your players, the right decision. I would do the same thing if I was the Chiefs. What I'm questioning is, how do we make this not even a topic? How do we get resting players out? How can we change the system so this never happens again? So every game is meaningful, kind of like the college playoffs, like college in general. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois in the beginning of the season. They still they're still playing for the big one. So how do we make the games important throughout so you still want to win at the end of the year? I'm going to give another example. Josh Allen this past week. So we talked about making the playoffs, the Chiefs, home field, resting players. Josh Allen came in the game this past week for the Buffalo Bills for one play, just to keep his consecutive starting streak alive. How pathetic is this? You're not going to play the game, but you still suit up, you put your pads on, you warm up. Oh, look at me, I'm Josh Allen, to go play one play, snap the ball, and that's it, just to keep a record of consecutive streak going. This is pathetic. They're making a mockery of the game. And that's Josh Allen. In addition to that, the Vikings went 14-3 this year, and then the 5th seed going on the road on a short week to play the Rams. So there's so many things wrong. The playoffs have a problem in the NFL. Bad for ratings, bad for teams, bad for players, bad for records, bad for everything, and I don't like it.
Man, get it off your chest. So you're expanding this past the point of just a meaningless Week 18 game, but it's also, you don't like seeing a powerhouse Vikings team having to go on the road to play the Rams. in cushy LA there. So you're suggesting maybe some kind of revision, some kind of like maybe playoff system similar to college football, or like a system like college football where it's more about like being scrutinized for by a committee, perhaps, like with how you perform that season all the way through. Because you know what? I could see a world in which that works. You know, in the NFL, maybe it's just two big conferences and the top teams make it, and it's not just based off record, it's about wins against certain teams, and we evaluate that way, and whoever has the strongest resume going into the playoffs, that's how we determine your ranking, or maybe there's a rank system. The only thing I would see as a problem there is that there's just not enough teams to make that completely valid. But who knows, maybe there is something that they can do to make some of these week 18 games a little bit more consistent and equitable throughout, because that is, I hear your pain though, man. If I were in your position as a fan, I would be pretty frustrated with having to watch a Chiefs team with nothing to play playing a team that has everything to play for in the last game of the season. That's tough. It is tough.
It's something we can all agree on. We want to see great NFL action for a full 18 weeks. They added another game. Just make it competitive. That's all I ask.
Well, exactly why I wanted to see Saquon Barkley play. But, you didn't really like that idea because we got to avoid injury and the record's not that big of a deal. And if he has the record and it took him 17 games compared to 14, that's not really a big deal either. That's not worth it. So, hey, man, I just got to keep you honest and keep you straight on the arrow. I get we change it. We day over day, everything changes. So I'm glad that I was able to convince you from
not even one bit. But I digress. Go ahead.
All right, man. All right. Well, cool. We spent a lot of time on first down. Let's hop into second down, and we were teasing into the playoffs. So how about we spend some time and preview these playoff matchups? It's set in stone, man. The regular season is in the books. The Bengals aren't going to be in it. The Cowboys aren't going to be in the playoffs, so we're not going to be rooting for our teams, which is great because we can look at these matchups in a very unbiased manner. So how about we kickstart? The playoffs are going to begin Saturday, January 11th at 4:30 p.m. We have the Chargers, who are going to be the 5th seed, on the road facing the Houston Texans, the 4th seed. Chargers are actually favored in this game by 3 points. It'll be aired on CBS. What are we thinking here? What are we excited to see? Give me a game pick too. Let's just go through these matchups and we're going to give our game picks, who we think is going to win.
Right on. Well, right off the bat, I feel like one team's limping into the playoffs, the Texans. They got the Tank Dell injury. I feel like they're not in stride whatsoever. And then you have the Chargers on the opposite end. They have some head of steam here. Harbaugh has got that team going in motion. The defense is playing well. Justin Herbert's playing well. I think they have it figured out. I'm going with the Chargers here, and I hope they can do some damage in the playoffs. I like the team. I like what they're doing. I think they go on the road and upset the Texans.
Look at that, man. We can actually agree on something here today. I, too, have a lot more faith in LA and the Chargers coming into the postseason. Houston is going to get a lot of scrutiny for playing in a weaker division this season. They were able to steamroll past the AFC South, which helped them clinch this division a few weeks back, but they really have looked rough over that stretch. CJ Stroud seems as though he's taken a little bit of a step back. The offensive line hasn't been protecting him very well. That game against Baltimore on Christmas was just a picture of exactly how they've been playing. Like, they couldn't. Stroud would drop back and have like 2 seconds to throw the ball before he was getting somebody hit him in the face. So, I'm picking the Chargers too, and I do want to just point this out here, man. The Chargers were one of my dark horse picks at the beginning of the season. Harbaugh has this knack for just coming into organizations and changing things pretty quickly. So good for the Chargers. I'm thinking they'll cover that spread too. But then later in the evening, we have Pittsburgh. The Steelers getting a quick rematch against the Ravens. Ravens won this matchup just a week ago. But Baltimore is favored right now by 10 points. This is going to be aired on Amazon Prime. What are we thinking here? 10 points. That's a huge underdog for Pittsburgh. Do we think that's justified?
It is not justified. This is a division game. Division games will play close. They see each other twice a year. This will be their third time seeing each other. This will be a close game. It was a close game 2-3 weeks ago. They went to Baltimore. Yes, Russell Wilson threw the pick six, but it was a close game deep into the third and fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers are going to rely on the running game, just like the Texans, the aforementioned Texans we mentioned. They'll rely on Joe Mixon. I think the Steelers are going to rely on their running backs and their rushing game to keep Lamar Jackson off the field as long as possible, and that they could steal this. But my prediction is they cover the spread, but the Ravens should still figure out a way to win.
Okay. Yeah, I could not imagine Baltimore blowing out Pittsburgh by 10 plus points, double digits. That just doesn't seem likely. I do think Baltimore at home is definitely the favorite, and I would pick them to win this game too. They've beaten Pittsburgh here recently. They just look like the better team heading into the playoffs. So my picks for Baltimore too. But Sunday, man, January 12th, the next day, we have the Broncos, the aforementioned Broncos, going to Buffalo. Buffalo is a 9-point favorite. This will be played on CBS if you're trying to check it out. I don't think Denver, they're that team that nobody really expected coming into the season, making a push for the playoffs. They've already exceeded expectations. Buffalo is that team that we all kind of anticipated to be here at this point. So what are your thoughts on this game and the matchup?
Inside, I'm rooting for Buffalo. I'd like to see Buffalo Bills do well, maybe get to the Super Bowl, but I think those Broncos have a stout defense. They can stop Josh Allen. They're putting up points. If you saw the past few games, Bo Nix is getting into a groove. One of my favorite quarterbacks starting off this year. My favorite rookie quarterback of the year.
You had high praises for Bo Nix at the beginning of the season, and I doubted you, but he has shown up this season.
He is showing up and showing out, and I think he covers the spread. But the Bills, oh boy, they better find a way to win this game, because if they don't, they're going to be flipping cars in Buffalo.
Well, yesterday when we were kind of prepping for this episode and talking about this matchup in particular, we were kind of under this notion of how the game script or the game flow might play out. You have Denver going out there, probably playing loose, you would anticipate. They've already exceeded expectations. I think even winning one playoff game would be huge for this team. I mean, they haven't been in the playoffs for since they went to the Super Bowl years ago. We could totally see them jumping out to a quick lead in this one. I think I told you, I could see 10-0 right off the bat, quick, what's happening? But at the end of the day, you have the experience of Buffalo. They've been there. They have guys that are veterans that have been in this situation before. They'll let the nerves calm down a little bit. They'll settle into the game plan. At the end of the day, the better team should prevail. I'm saying 24-21. I think it'll be close, or 24-20, something of that nature. Buffalo pulls out the win. We have Green Bay, the 7 seed, going up against the number 2 seed Philadelphia Eagles at 4:30 p.m. Philly, 4-point favorites. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I'm glad we got to these NFC games, because we have a few coming up here that are good, starting off with the Packers Eagles. I really think that something suspicious is going on in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts, concussed, didn't play last game, hasn't even practiced for a couple weeks. Something to keep an eye on. That is troubling, just to not practice for that long. Maybe he'll be out of rhythm for this upcoming game. And then the Packers, Christian Watson tore his ACL versus the Bears this past week, so they'll be without Christian Watson. That's a big blow. I think the Packers win this game. Eagles are favored by 4. I think the Packers pull this out.
Really? You think what's giving you this confidence? Well, obviously, if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, I think we could probably see this spread push. But right now, Vegas is anticipating Hurts to play, given the 4-point edge. I think Hurts is going to play. We were chatting about this too right before we started click and record here. It seems like they're really taking their time with Hurts. They probably told him after it happened, hey, go home, go rest up. No need to practice, because with concussions, the best thing to do is just rest. Kind of limit light exposure, limit blue light. Don't get that in your eyes, because that's where all the headaches start creeping in. So just take some time off, go rest it up. And then once playoffs begin, we're going to ramp things up a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised once practice reports start being published here over the next couple days that we see him report back. And if he does, it's Philly, man. Right now in the NFC, you got Philly and Detroit as the 2 powerhouse front runners. I don't see the Packers being able to overcome Philadelphia's dominance on the line, and the defense has just been playing lights out here recently. So that's a lot of praise coming from a Cowboy fan.
I mean, I must say, I'm glad you mentioned that. That just squarely means that the pressure's on the Eagles. They've been good throughout the year. Here they are. Don't slip up now.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be a big upset. I would have to say. All right, but we have 2 more games. Let's try to get through these last 2. The Washington Commanders, similarly to Denver, honestly, like they're the counterpart to the Broncos here in the NFC. No one had high expectations for the Commanders this year. They're led into the playoffs by probably the rookie of the year, Jaden Daniels. They're going to Tampa Bay to play your Bucks, the 3 seed. Tampa's a 3-point favorite. This will be aired on NBC Peacock. Who are you picking? Try not to be a homer here, okay?
No,
Either way.
I really think this is going to be the best game of the whole entire weekend. I think it'll be the most fun game to watch. It'll be warm weather down here. It'll be nice for both of these teams, for Jaden Daniels. I think they'll score a lot of points, believe it or not. And I think Tampa Bay does find a way to win this game. Washington, mind you, hasn't really played any competition the past 2-3 weeks. Dallas's backups. Before that, the Falcons. And before that, they haven't really had that
Falcons
tough
were
competition.
right there, man. They were a game away from making the playoffs and winning.
I think the
NFC
Buccaneers
South.
take this. The Buccaneers win this game at home, and the Commanders have a great season, but they go home packing.
Oh, man. I have a tough time with this. Just look at their records, though, too. Remember, going back to your point there on first down, like the stronger record teams being in a wild card, if we were to like reposition things, Washington would be a stage ahead of Tampa. I'm going with Washington, man. Jaden Daniels is the X factor in all of this. They lost early in the season. Remember the first game of the season, Washington did lose to Tampa Bay. I think, though, that they come out here, they've learned a lot of lessons. Jaden Daniels has just been hot, and he's the X factor. If he can make things happen with his legs, extend some plays, there's no reason why Washington can't beat the Bucs. But let's round it out. Monday night, we have the Vikings going to the Rams. This is an 8 p.m. game on ESPN ABC. Vikings right now a 1.5-point favorite over the Rams. They're the road team, so but like you mentioned, a 14-win road team in the wild card.
I hate to say it, Sam Darnold, great year. I'm cheering for the Vikings, but I do believe the Rams pulled this off. They rested both the receivers last week. Stafford's going to be full health. They're playing at home. I think the Rams beat the Vikings, unfortunately, but that's just the way it's going to be.
No way. No way. Come on, man. No. 14 wins. Exit in the first? I don't think so. Let's go Vikings. I know we have a few Viking fans that listen to the pod, so gonna give them some respect here and defend their honor. The what is it they call
the skull chant? Skull.
Yeah, that's so bizarre. Yeah, the skull. Whatever, guys. No. Vikings should be able to beat the Rams.
I hope so.
Rams have the experience, though, in this position, so that's the one thing they have going for them, and it being at home. But I like the Vikings. All right, man. Let's hop into our half-minute halftime show.
Ladies and gentlemen, rev up your engines because we are going on a playoff run, and we're excited to have you with us. So if you are enjoying this content and these awesome previews, tune in, subscribe, and keep joining us every week for these hot takes.
All right, you said it all, man. Yeah, I was just going to say, click like, subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast. We appreciate all the feedback and you following the show. All right, man, we spent some time there on first and second downs, so maybe in these last 2 downs, we keep it a little bit more concise. Third down here, Black Monday has already come and gone. Really kind of surprising, not a ton of action in terms of like the head coach moves, GM firings, those sorts of things. So let's kind of give a little bit of an overview, a highlight of what we've seen happen so far, any reactions to the head coaching moves or some of the rumors that are starting to percolate, and then quickly look over any draft order business that we might have seen develop after the season.
So right off the bat, first coach to go, Doug Peterson. The Jags were supposedly had their best team that Shad Khan's ever seen. Man. They wet the bed.
Had to happen.
Doug Peterson, gone.
That had to happen, though. I think we were both under the impression that he wasn't going to make it to the end of the season. A few points there, right? But What the GM is retained. They're not considering this like a full blow it up rebuild type situation. Quite disappointing though. They had some big injuries throughout the year. Christian Kirk got injured. Travis Etienne was off injured. Trevor Lawrence was injured. So, but even when some of those guys were healthy, they just weren't able to pick up the slack. So, do you have any idea who they might go for here?
No idea. Good luck. They're in a hole, and I don't think Trevor Lawrence is the answer. So they got a long way to go over there in Jacksonville.
Yeah. And so who else got fired? The Patriots, right? They let their head coach go.
Poor guy. Mayo used to play with the Patriots. They really put him in a bad position. I think they wanted him to lose that last game. He went out and won, which lost the Patriots the number 1 pick. They put their third string quarterback in, so it wasn't even May. Drake May wasn't out there. They put Joe Milton, who played at Tennessee. He balled out. He's really good. He has an arm. He can escape the pocket. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about him in the offseason. Someone might trade for him. But Patriots, they're looking for a coach. Who else is looking for a coach here?
Well, Chicago, they recently requested to interview Mike McCarthy, Dallas's current head coach. McCarthy's on contract until January 14th. So they had to request this interview. I haven't seen anything yet of recording this on whether or not Dallas has given them permission to do so, which then in case would basically signal that they're going to move on past McCarthy. So Dallas is one of those teams too that they could be resetting everything except for GM, as we know, because they have a dictator in there at GM.
Well, they say another person's trash is another person's treasure. So Mike McCarthy's one. And then Lou Anarumo, Bengals defensive coordinator, got fired. Great coach. I loved what he was able to do for a short period of time. Just wasn't his year. He's out for the Bengals, as well as the O-line coordinator, Frank Pollock. Good changes needed on both sides. Yeah. And a last one, the Seahawks fired their offensive coordinator. So a lot of these coordinators and coaches getting fired. This is about the time of year this happens, Black Monday. Let's see who gets hired in the coming weeks.
Well, remember, we had a lot of in-season decisions. The Jets are currently in the market for a head coach. The Bears are, as well as the Saints. All three of these teams, they were quick on the market by firing their guys mid-season. So outside of them, right now it's Jacksonville, New England. There were some questions around Antonio Pierce, but it's seeming like his job is probably going to be safe. I know there were questions around Steinek over in Indy. It seems like he might be safe. And then the shocking one, I think we were all expecting Joe Sheehan and Brian Dable after a 3-14 finish, letting the whole debacle with Saquon. We were probably expecting them to get canned, but no, it's already been reported. Mara, the owner, has said that they are going to be stick and put, and he has confidence that they can turn this around.
If I was a Giants fan, that's sad. That's sad news. And as you can see, the teams that need head coaches in the draft order, that's 4, 5, 7, 9, and 10. So all these teams at the top of the draft here searching for head coaches now. And these coaches are coming into good situations, high draft capital. So excited to see what happens there.
Yeah. All right. So we touched on the draft a little bit, and I think that's fine. I want to save some time here for fourth down, Antonino, being mindful. We try to do this in 30 minutes. So fourth down, let's revisit those Super Bowl predictions. We gave them in the offseason. We gave it at the beginning of the season, mid-season. It's only justified that we save another Super Bowl prediction here at the end of the season. I just want to end the spoiler there. If you all don't remember, Antonino had been picking the Bengals consistently all throughout the year. Absolutely zero bias involved in his decisions and predictions here. It was all analytics. He really crunched the numbers, and he thought the Bengals just had the strongest team. So I'm going to defend him there. But the Bengals, unfortunately, will not be in the big dance to even compete for that. So they're already out. And your other pick in the NFC, I think, you had Atlanta at one point, so they didn't even make the playoffs.
What was that thing you said about 30 minutes? I think we need to speed.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I originally had Bengals and Falcons. One game goes different. No one wanted to see the Bengals in the playoffs. And the Falcons, if they started Kirk Cousins, they would be in the playoffs right now. But anyhow, I think there's a difference between who I'm rooting for and who's realistically going to play. I'm rooting for the Bills and Chargers in the AFC and the Bucks and Vikings in the NFC. But realistically, it's going to be the Chiefs in Detroit. All we're going to hear about is the three-peat, Mahomes. All they got to do is win 2 games. They have like 2-3 weeks of rest by the time that game gets here. It's going to be the Chiefs on one side. I hope I'm reverse jinxing this. I hope they lost all their black magic for the karma that they pulled this past week, and that the black magic's out and they get pummeled the first time they're back on the field, and that Detroit finds a way to take them down. Chiefs in Detroit, let's make this happen.
Wait, you want that to happen?
Taking down the Chiefs. Detroit,
okay.
Take down the Chiefs, yes.
Look, the Chiefs aren't going to be in it because my Super Bowl picks, I'm going to stick with it because I don't think much has changed to sway my opinion. I have been picking Detroit, I think, pretty consistently all season long. They haven't done anything that has made me think otherwise of this prediction, so I'm sticking with Detroit. I am rooting for Detroit in the NFC. I would love to see them in the playoffs. And then in the AFC, I've been saying Baltimore. And no bias here. I love our Baltimore listeners and the fans of the Ravens, but I'm a big Lamar fan now these days. And I think with Derrick Henry in the mix, we were talking about this with our resolutions last week. Baltimore will not make the same mistakes they made last year. They're going to stick with the running game. They're going to bludgeon teams in the playoffs here. It's cold. If teams have to go to Baltimore, even if they have to go to KC, that physicality that they can bring, it's going to be hard to match. So Baltimore, Detroit, that's my playoff picks. And that's our prediction. So we'll see if it ends up mapping out the way that we think it will.
This is the best time of year. I'm excited for these teams, even though my team's not in the ring. Let's go take down the Chiefs, shall we? I think we can all agree on that. Let's take down the Chiefs.
Yeah. No, I don't want to see the Chiefs in it. If Baltimore can't make it, way to go, Buffalo. It'd be cool to see a Buffalo-Detroit Super Bowl. I think that's the Super Bowl everybody wants to see if your team is not in the playoffs right now. So hopefully that plays out. But all right, man. I think that does it for our 4 downs. So let's hop into our 2-minute drill and cover the latest news and reports here.
Aaron Rodgers eclipses 500 career touchdown passes with a 4-touchdown game and a win to end the year. Now all eyes are on if he will retire.
I think he will. Zeke Elliott, the former Cowboy running back, was released just a few weeks ago. It wasn't really news-shattering by any means since he was doing pretty awful, but he was picked up by the LA Chargers to be on their practice squad.
The Cowboys' Cooper Rush, all he needed was a handful of snaps to reach a $250,000 contract incentive, and the Cowboys decided to start Trey Lance and play him the whole game.
Oh, man. Well, he's going to be a free agent, both of them, so who cares? All right, well, Green Bay Packers wide receiver Christian Watson, he's out for the remainder of the season with a knee injury, torn ACL. You mentioned it before, Antonino, so this could be a tough break for them in their wide receiver room heading into this matchup against Philly this weekend.
Speaking of receivers, Mike Evans got a $3 million bonus on the very last play of the game for hitting 1,000 yards. He got a standing ovation because he then tied Jerry Rice 11 straight seasons of 1,000 yards.
That's impressive. Good for him. Derek Carr stated he would not take a pay cut to remain with the New Orleans Saints. He's willing to restructure his contract, but it's looking like there could be a change there in New Orleans. He could get traded or cut before the season begins.
Tyreek Hill, Miami Dolphins receiver, had a childish outburst of post-game remarks saying that he wants out of Miami after they lost the game, and went as far as changing his Twitter picture to Antonio Brown leaving the field when he played with Tampa Bay. He wants out.
That's bizarre. I'm happy to report that the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader that was drilled in the head by Brandon Aubrey's kickoff out of bounds is doing okay, expected to make a full recovery. If you haven't seen the video of it, go check it out online if you're into seeing people suffer, I guess. I don't know.
Talking about teams that have suffered, the Bears. They haven't won against Green Bay since 2018, but they reversed that jinx and got their first one since 2018. Before that, it was 2015. So way to go, Bears, finally breaking that curse.
Nice. Well, the Vikings did buy $2 million worth of tickets to have fans in Detroit for that game that they lost and only made 3 field goals. So they spent all that money for nothing, it seems like.
And last but not least, it's official. Jamar Chase is the first ever receiver with 1,700 yards and 17 touchdowns to seal the Triple Crown, along with his quarterback, Joseph Lee Burrow, who won the passing title with 4,900 yards and had the most total touchdowns. And lastly, Trey Hendrickson finished the year with the most sacks in the NFL at 17 and a half.
Hey, man, we're going to have to work on your timing with it. This is supposed to be quick-hitting news, not a whole paragraph about Bengal worship. Come on now.
That's my last Bengals thing I got this year. Regular season's over. That's all I got, folks. I got nothing left for you until next September with the Bengals talk. We'll see you on the next one. The next one is always the best one.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of First and 30. Until next Wednesday, remember, when your number's called, no matter the odds,
just go for it.